welcome to another episode of Atomic Vinyl Reviews! My name's Wolfy, and today we'll be talking about me. Just me, and only me. Hello, my name's Jacob, and today I'm doing something a little bit different on my channel. I'm going to be talking about this beautiful little doggy right here. His name's Wolfy, and he is a werewolf hand puppet that I made about 5 years ago at the end of high school as a high school art project, basically. I've had this guy just kind of sitting in some corner of my little recording studio where I record music. And he's just been gathering dust, and, you know, I figured I make YouTube videos where I show off things that might interest people, and I have a thing that might interest people. So I figured, you know what, let's showcase this guy on one of my videos, and here we are. He is a life-sized werewolf head that I built from scratch. Looks like he would be like a mask, but he's actually, like I said, a hand puppet. He's got this sort of furry, furry. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of those sort of comments, but he's got this sort of cloth inner lining here, and there's only about enough space for you to put your hand in, and you can use him like a bit of a puppet just to kind of make his mouth move a little bit. Fortunately, it doesn't move much more than this, just because of the way he's built, and there's no real like clamps on there to kind of hold your hand to the bottom of his jaw and your thumb at the bottom of here to kind of have it move better, so it's a little bit loose feeling when you do that. But it still gets the job done. It still looks pretty cool. He is made of latex, so predominantly this whole part, that's this sort of smooth part, that bendy material, is latex. I actually cast him from a plaster mold that I made of a plasticine sculpture of his you know, his whole head. That was a lot of work. I will have photos of all of that at the end of the video, by the way. I'll detail the whole building making of process. But for now, I just kind of want to show you, just, you know, basically do a 360 of this guy and show you really what he looks like, what he can do. So he's got his beautiful teeth. These teeth I hand carved out of wood, and then I painted them up, made them look a little bit more bone colored, and I glossed them a little bit so they look a little shiny, a little bit more like natural bone. I'm really happy with how these turned out. Really mean looking teeth on this thing. He also has this big tongue, which is just a solid chunk of latex, basically. His gums here are actually made of cloth that I put holes in, stretched over the teeth, and I painted it with latex, so the latex absorbed into the cloth, turning it into more of a rubbery, leather-like material. Not quite. It's got its own sort of character to it. It's still more cloth-like, but it definitely integrates a lot better with the teeth. And I painted that all up and all that sort of stuff. Unfortunately, you can even see there's a bit of a tissue, a bit of white from tissue in here, just because I was stuffing his jawline here with some stuffing, and that's all I had on hand. So that's, I should probably fix that with something better, like maybe like a flesh-toned sort of cloth or rags in here would look better if you can kind of, so it wouldn't peer through a little bit. And you can see the whole upper gum area is also made in the same sort of cloth that's been painted over with latex. Same with the inner ears. I'm really proud of how these turned out, because his ears are bits of fake fur that were folded into a shape of like a little dog's ear. They've even got a little wire frame in here. And then the inner ear was painted with latex, and that latex then absorbed into the cloth, and then it turns into this more leathery sort of texture, and then I painted that to, you know, match the rest of this guy. And yeah, really happy with the ears. They're really cute on this guy. I wish there was a way that I can control the ears from the inside as well as the mouth. That would make him just come to life. I would love that. Unfortunately, I can't do that at the moment, but well, you know, what are you going to do? His eyes here, they are made of ping pong balls. I just painted the ping pong ball to look a little bit more organic and added some, you know, some splashes of red and yellow in there just to make it look creepy. The eyes are all whited over as well, as you can plainly see. and I'm really happy with how they turned out. I also glossed them, so that gives them a really good effect. Nice little really pearly look to the paintwork that I did. And you can see around them there's that sort of fleshy color. They're just little cloth rings of like this sort of flesh tone color, like this that pink color under them, and they just go around the eyes on the inside of the latex eyelids. And his brow also. I'm really happy with his brow. He's got a nice expressive look to his face. So we'll look at his other eye, just on this side. Fortunately, his brow on this side is kind of peeling up a little bit, so you can see the cut lines in the latex here, which don't, they're meant to curl up a little bit, so they hide that, but it's, falling down a little bit. This guy's, getting old. Latex doesn't last forever. Hence why I'm trying to immortalize this guy a little bit in video at the moment. But yeah, you can see all those eye shapes there. Got his snout. You can even see a lot of the seam lines still in the latex, unfortunately. It was my first time doing a project like this, so I couldn't perfect it to not get any seam lines, but I'm still really proud of how he turned out. But I'll show you how that all worked in a little bit. You got his snout, and one of my favorite things about him, his little cute doggy nose. And really, really cute and adorable on this really terrifying face. But I'm really happy with how that turned out, and he did a little bit of shading. The paintwork on this guy was kind of tricky, because to paint latex, you have to mix latex into paint to actually get it to adhere to the existing latex, and when you mix liquid latex into paint, the consistency is really like, it doesn't want to blend very well, and it was a bit of a pain, but I took the time and I got it to look fairly alright. Here we can see a good little close-up of what those wooden teeth look like in the inside of his mouth there. And actually, you can even make out slightly, he does have fuzz on his face here and on his chin. I don't know if you guys can see that, but he does have a little bit of fuzz on his chin, and that was just done by getting some fake fur and like a needle, and just like putting the fur there and just stabbing it through with a needle, and it left some of that fur into him. So he does have some whiskers, like you can see on the side of his face here. He has some over here and just under here, just to add a little bit more character to him. And got this nice transition from the latex over into the actual fake fur here. Where is it? Down here. The way I did that was fur was just glued to the latex at first, and then I blended in more liquid latex into the fur for a little bit of the way, just so it kind of blends in a little bit more. So this is all actually that fake fur just with latex poured into it, and that's how I got that transition, and that's how I got the fur to really stick. Now this fur was really white when I first got it, but it's been painted to look darker and just to meld better with the whole look of this guy, so it feels really rough because it doesn't have paint through it, but it does the job and it looks pretty cool. There we got the underside of his little chin there. His big teeth again. And yeah, same thing applied to the fur under his hair here, although this hair is actually a completely different type of fur. It's a big wig. Now, and I'm really happy with how his little fringe turned out. It turned out so cute, because this was, like, again, another wig, which I ended up just kind of cutting up into bits and then gluing on just so it sat correctly, and also painting it through a little bit as well, just to add a bit of grayness and color to there. And yeah, he's got a nice little fringe going on, a little mane, kind of like me. So yeah, I'm really happy with how that turned out. So yeah, that is Wolfy. Now I'm gonna go to a different camera view where you guys can actually see my computer screen, and I'm gonna show you a bunch of photos of my making of process for this guy, because I think a lot of you might find it pretty interesting. So say bye, Wolfy. Bye. Good doggy. Yes, you're such a good doggy. In here I've got some making of images of how I actually went about making this werewolf head. So the first step was actually designing the look of this werewolf character. So this is a prototype painting that I did. It was a pretty big painting, just acrylic paints on paper. It was maybe like that big. It was, yeah, maybe like a 2 size, something like that. The border that's around here I added later. That's just like been photoshopped in, but the painting behind there you can still make out in the middle here. And I was really happy with how this turned out. And this was, the basic prototype painting for this werewolf creature design. So after having made that, what I did was I made a little plasticine mock-up of the werewolf creature. This is only about this big, a little plasticine thing, little head, and the actual thing that happened while I was sculpting this one out of plasticine, I was using this kind of tool, which was like this bean-shaped piece of sheet metal that's used to cut through the plasticine. So while I was doing that, to, cut out a bit of plasticine to shape it, I actually sliced my thumb by accident. So I now have this permanent scar. I don't know if you guys can see that, but I have this like weird scar on my left hand here on my thumb, where a bit flap of skin was sort of basically sliced into. And yeah, it was a scary moment. Like I was freaking out. My parents were freaking out. Eventually, like, it healed, but now I have this kind of like weird permanent fleshy mark scar on my thumb. So that's the backstory before that, in case you see that in any of my videos. But yeah, this was the little mock-up. His eyes were, sorry, these photos are terrible, but his eyes are just a little bead or a marble, or like something smaller than a marble. I think it was a bead. I started off the initial sculpture by making this bizarre looking thing, which is just newspaper covered in tape, and it has some ping pong balls stuck to it, the top of it, and it looks really bizarre, but this is what the initial sculpture was, how it was initially started. So you can see it there, and it's also covered in cling wrap. It was then covered in cling wrap just because I didn't want the clay that I was about to put over it, which is the special sort of monster clay or something it's called, which is a special type of waxy plasticine. And yeah, this is how it's progressing. I started putting all the elements onto that clay and just sculpting in the shape of the werewolf with it. And here it's getting pretty close to complete, if not. So that's how it was turning out by that point. So I'd gotten in all the contours, the details, and the shape of the snout and the mouth and the nose, and I just kept the eyes blank for the moment because they were going to be cut out later on. But that's what it was looking like. In retrospective, I wish I would have gone in and done more detail, like skin detail. Like, I know so many ways that I could have got that to look good, but I didn't do it then. But oh well. Maybe in another life I will do another one. Probably not. This was a lot of effort, so I really don't feel like doing it again. But it's one of those things I'm glad I did at least once in my lifetime. But here, this is me making plaster, because in order to get this guy complete, I needed to make a plaster mold. So here, I made this rim of clay, a different type of clay, and I covered the exposed sculpture with, it was either detergent or oil or something like that, so that the plaster wouldn't stick to it in the long run. And I had to, put it in 3 segments, but each segment had to be done one at a time. So this was the back of the head, was the first one. You can see him there. He looks like he's about to get scalped or something, or brain operation. But you can see him there, looking not very happy about the whole situation. But you gotta do what you gotta do. Okay, here he is with some plaster starting to be applied. So this was a fairly slow process, and it took quite a bit of effort. But eventually, what you do is you keep building it up, and you mix the plaster in with bits of cloth, like cloth bandages and stuff like that, and that helps to strengthen it. And you just keep applying more and more and more till you got the whole back part of his head covered. So with a nice thick plaster mold is created. So if you skip ahead here, we got some nice shots of his little cute nose and his snout from the front. There's a slightly better looking one there. More there. So that's just the front of his face for a little while. Yeah, it's just doing this in my backyard, as you can see. You can see he's almost covered here, and what I do is remove that other clay that was just creating the little mold line, and then I would have done the same to this third of his face. There you can see the last third of his face is still the process of being plastered over. I've just this ready so he would then, you know, be greased up with some detergent or something. Then I would have put the last bit of plaster on here, because it's really important that all these little notches here that I put in the plaster, that they, you know, don't lock into the last bit of plaster that goes on here. So, you know, lots of detergent and grease was used to make sure they didn't stick. And here is the clay head that I finally pulled out of the mold once he was finished. He's not looking very happy there, but you know, he did good. He did his job. Now it's up to this mold to produce the final version of Wolfy. So there we go. There's all the 3 bits of the mold, and here is the process of pouring in the liquid latex. So this gunk in here is actually what the liquid latex looks like. It's like a white liquid that smells like piss, but then it, you know, it air dries to turn into this slightly more darkery orangey brown color, and it's like a, you know, a proper rubber. There we go. There's more of it there. And the way you do it is you just keep applying layer after layer after layer after layer, and eventually it solidifies, and you know, you get a pretty thick layer of it. So eventually I had to tape all the bits together. So these are just a couple of bits, the snout here and the back of his head there, where I just started it off just to make it easier. You can see the shape of his eyes here, and his nose here, his mouth here, and this is slowly coming together. I had to rotate this a lot constantly to spread out the liquid so that it would, you know, cover the whole surface. That was a big challenge while making this thing. And here it is, all taped together, all 3 chunks, and the hole would have been up here where I poured the latex in, and I just spun it around and let it dry on different angles until it would finally, you know, turn it into a solid latex skin type material. They're just doing this overnight. It took a lot of hours, a lot of work. Yeah, there you can see it's, you know, coming together quite a lot. You can see the latex starting to peel off at the edges here. I didn't have enough material or time to get the edges to look really neat, but it didn't matter in the end because, you know, I ended up using cloth to kind of pad that out. Here it is, finally being opened up. There's the floppy bit of latex inside the mold. Look at that. It doesn't look good. It's got bits of plaster stuck to it all over the place. It looks really unneat and stuff. But there's his face. And you can see all the bits of latex that are just kind of the seam lines coming up here, down here. And that's how he started off life. And then you can see the front of his face there. And here he is after I finally started to paint him. So we are skipping ahead. What I did was I took him to class, and that's where I painted him up. I also cut off all the seam lines. I could have done a better job, but you know, this is my first attempt. It's the best I could do. Here are the teeth coming together. These took a long time as well, a lot of work. I made them very chunky actually, so they came out really chunky. But here you see me like whittling them away with a little scalpel knife. The same scalpel knife that I probably use for all my unboxing videos actually. To unbox everything. And there you see me back in the day working on all this stuff. I think that might be the tongue there, if not just a scrap piece of latex. Kind of coming together. Or the teeth. Yeah, it was a messy project. I'm really happy with how it turned out. Here are the teeth after they've been painted, and you can see them being varnished. So that's how they get that nice shine. Yeah, so this is just a piece of plywood that was used to make his jaw. I'm not sure which jaw this is. I'm guessing it's the top jaw. But you can see these were attached to this bit of plywood. And the other one is like a thick piece of cardboard or card that... Oh no, that's the top jaw. So the bottom jaw is a bit of plywood. That's a bit of thick card. You can see little thumbtacks were used, and definitely glue as well. So that's how the teeth were put in place, and we made these really creepy looking jaws. These are probably more creepy just on their own than the actual finished werewolf, but this is just me kind of attempting to put them in his mouth to see what they would look like. And there's me looking all like, I'm in high school, yo. My really, really bad mustache. Oh, and there's Kulka, my cockatiel. He died a while ago, but he was my best friend, and I loved him. I miss him. But yeah. There's more of the jaws. Let's see if I got anything I missed. These were just more pictures of me, like, just trying out the jaws here. Oh, God. Yeah, me being weird. Okay. Now, what I did for the gums, like I said earlier, was... Oh, these are some of my skulls that I had. Don't ask me why I had skulls. I was just one of those people. Here's how I made the gums. So you can see this is a bit of cloth that I made holes in, and then I pulled them through all the teeth, right? That cloth was then painted with a thick layer of latex. You can also see the tongue here. This is just a giant thick chunk of latex that I left to dry forever. Painted it up, and then I glossed it. So that's how the tongue was made. Very heavy chunk of latex, actually. But the gums here, they were covered in that liquid latex. It turned it into more like a leathery substance. It was painted up fleshy red, and that was pulled through the teeth on both sides. So you can see the top jaw had it kind of like a sock that went over it, but the teeth pulled through. Bottom jaw, same thing, same deal. And yeah, that painting it over with that sort of latex paint really gave it that nice texture. And that's how I made the gums. There's this big tongue sitting in there. Really fleshy looking creepy stuff going on. But yeah, I'm really happy with how it turned out. These are the rings. These two things here are the rings that go around his eyes. So I can see it's getting kind of dark, so that might help. Ping pong balls sit inside these eyes, and this goes inside the latex skin. So when you're peering into his eye sockets, you can see a little bit of this pink coming through. So it, helps the eyes basically sit in there. And I think I did the same thing with those where they're painted with latex, and they're just like cloth donuts. And as his mouth coming together. And I think that's when his mouth was being attached. I don't actually remember how I attached his mouth to the inner mouth to the latex around it. Must have been glued on or something, or like, I don't even know, but I did it somehow. Somehow it was done. His little face there. Okay, so here's the fake hair that was put over him, and there's me messing around with his ears, trying to get them shaped correctly and all that sort of stuff and attached. And this fur was later painted into the existing latex here with just liquid latex, so it blended in like I showed you earlier. And then the fur was of course painted to match the color of the rest of this guy. But you can already see his eyes came together nicely. It's got that his mouth's in there looking all good. So he's really coming together by this point. He looks really funny without his hair though. So that's gonna come into play soon. Little snout again. Oh yeah, there's my big bottle of latex, and there it's being painted on around the seams there, so to blend that in, so it becomes basically one piece of material. There's the piece of wig that's being cut up to be tacked on top of his head to give him that, that classic hair that he's got, his hairline. There we go. Look at that. He's really coming together now. Come together right now over me. And there we go. More stuff, more photos. You get the point. Him just at a distance, looking really menacing there. I love that angle of his face looking up. He kind of looks like he's smiling just a bit, but like a really evil smile. Like you don't want to see that in the middle of the woods at night. So yeah. Okay, here's where I'm starting to paint the fur. So this is the finishing touches basically. He's already got his whiskers in. He's got his beautiful hair there, his beautiful eyes. And there's me with my shaggy ass hair there. Yeah, he's pretty much done at this point. I'm just like finishing him off. I left a little bit of a lighter color just where his under his neck would be. But there we go. There you can see I'm just lying on the ground like a hobo, painting the underside of his chin in places like that. There's a stylized photo of him. But yeah, he's pretty much done by this point. So I'm just painting him up, getting him all ready. Me lying like a hobo. Yeah. Look at me. But yeah, there he is. All finished, newly finished. Came together really nicely, and he's been the same ever since. So yeah, I'm really proud of how he turned out. There he is on his little display stand there. Looking good. I hope you all enjoyed meeting Wolfy. I know he really enjoyed meeting you guys. And yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Have you done something like this project? Has this project inspired you to do something like this of your own? It's definitely a lot of work. It's like a thing that I don't think I would do more than once in a decade. It was a lot of work, but you know, you get something really cool at the end. And I found it really rewarding and fun, and I recommend it. So yeah, that's it for this video. I'll be sure to see you guys in the comments, hopefully, and see you in the next one. So till then, peace out, bye.